It was a rainy Thursday morning when Nam, a middle-aged plumber known for his quiet demeanor and reliable hands, received a call from an old mansion on the outskirts of Hanoi. The voice on the other end was trembling. The kitchen pipe burst. "Water is everywhere," she said. Nam packed his tools and set off, thinking it would be just another routine repair. But the minute he stepped into the Nguyen family estate, something felt off. The house, though grand, carried an eerie silence. The elderly woman who greeted him, Mrs. Nguyen, had sorrow etched deep into her face. As Nam made his way to the kitchen, he noticed two old framed photos in the hallway, one of a young woman, another of a boy. Both had the same gentle smile. Both had the word "missing" carved into the bottom of the frame. "Their cases were never solved," Mrs. Nguyen said softly when she caught Nam looking. "My daughter Lin disappeared 20 years ago. Then my grandson Bao vanished 10 years later. Police gave up. But I never did." Nam didn't reply. He crouched to fix the pipe. But as he worked, something strange happened. Behind the kitchen wall, there was a hollow sound. Curious, Nam asked for permission to check it. Mrs. Nguyen agreed. When Nam carefully removed part of the wall, he found an old, rusted tin box inside. Inside the box were photographs, letters, and a torn diary. As Mrs. Nguyen read through them, her hands trembled. The letters revealed a forbidden romance between Lin and the gardener's son, who was banished after being caught. The diary showed that Lin had planned to run away, but never made it. The most shocking piece, however, was a photograph of young Bao, dated a year after he went missing. He was alive, and the letter beside it explained everything. Bao had discovered his aunt's secret affair and the truth behind her disappearance. Afraid for his life, he had fled to live with distant relatives abroad, leaving clues behind for someone brave enough to piece it together. Nam contacted the local authorities with the evidence. A month later, Bao returned, grown and safe. And while Lin was never found, her story was finally understood.
Mrs. Nguyen wept, clutching Namessan.
"You came to fix a pipe," she said, "but you brought back the truth." Nam smiled gently. Sometimes, leaks lead to more than just water. After Bao returned, the Nguyen house slowly came back to life. Laughter echoed through the halls for the first time in decades. Still, something gnawed at Nam. He kept thinking about the hollow wall and that old tin box. It felt too deliberate, too well hidden. Someone had meant for it to be found, but only by someone who knew where to look. A week later, Nam returned under the pretense of checking the plumbing again. Bao greeted him warmly, calling him Uncle Nam now. They chatted over tea before Nam asked to take another look at the kitchen wall. "I have a feeling there's more to this house than just old secrets," he said. With Bao's help, Nam tapped along the walls. One panel near the pantry sounded different. Carefully, they pried it open, and behind it, they found a narrow, hidden passage. Inside was a cramped space, dusty but intact, with small furniture and a faded photo of Lin and the gardener's son.
À secondiari, les benéates à wooden plank.
It was Lin's. They read in stunned silence. The final entries told a darker story. Lin had tried to run, but someone in the house had stopped her. Her last words were a warning: trust no one inside these walls. Someone watches.
Sommeonwe. The air greu cold.
Nam and Bao brought the journal to the police, and this time, with concrete evidence, they reopened the investigation. It didn't take long for suspicion to fall on Lin's older brother, Bao's own father, who had grown paranoid and possessive after his wife left him. Overwhelming guilt and pressure had caused his mental state to spiral, and in a moment of rage, he'd sealed Lin in the hidden room, never revealing the truth. He had since passed away, taking the full story with him, but the truth, long buried, had finally surfaced. Mrs. Nguyen, though heartbroken, found peace. Bao decided to stay in Vietnam and restore the family home, turning part of it into a small community library in Lin's memory. Nam refused payment for any of his work. When asked why, he simply said, "Some pipes carry more than water. Some walls whisper stories that need to be heard." Months passed, and spring came to Hanoi. Flowers bloomed in the courtyard of the Nguyen estate, and children now played where silence once ruled. Bao's community library had become a local treasure. But for Nam, life returned to normal, or so he thought. One evening, Just as he was closing up his workshop, a man in a gray suit arrived. He introduced himself as Detective Kwong, a quiet, sharp-eyed investigator who'd been following the Nguyen case from the shadows. "You're not just a plumber," Kwong said with a thin smile. "You've got an eye for things others miss." Nam chuckled.
Il fixe what is broken.
"That's all." But Kwong leaned closer. "Then maybe you can help me fix something else." He handed Nam a faded blueprint of an old government building downtown, set to be demolished. 3 disappearances.
All workers. All gone without a trace. The only thing in common.
Each reported strange sounds in the basement, pipes knocking, but no water running. Nam raised an eyebrow.
Ghost stories.
Kwong nodded. Or a perfect cover. Though hesitant, Nam agreed. Curiosity had its claws in him now. A few nights later, flashlight in hand, he followed Kwong into the building's bowels. The place reeked of rust and rot. Pipes crawled along the ceiling like skeletal vines, and the air was thick with mildew. Nam listened.
At first, nothing.
Then there it was.
Knock knock. Pause. Knock knock knock.
"It's too rhythmic," Nam muttered. "That's not a leak. That's a pattern." Following the sound, they reached a wall where a large pipe ran deep into concrete.
Nam tapait dit. Hollow.
He marked the wall, took out his tools, and began carefully cutting. Behind the wall wasn't just a pipe, it was a tunnel, reinforced and decades old. Inside were shelves of files, old security uniforms, and photos of the missing men, all labeled, catalogued, observed. Someone had been watching, recording, tracking. And then they found him, the last missing man. Barely alive, hidden in a locked room, weak but breathing.
The truth unraveled fast.
The building had been a Cold War-era surveillance post, long abandoned but secretly reactivated by a rogue group trying to revive its old methods. The workers had stumbled onto the operation, and had been silenced. Nam, once again, had found a crack in the system. This time, through a pipe that didn't even leak. Detective Kwong looked at him afterward and asked, "You ever think of becoming a detective?" Nam shook his head.
Nah.
"Pipes are easier than people. But I'll help if something sounds off." A year had passed since Nam uncovered the underground surveillance network. Stories of the plumber detective quietly spread, though Nam never sought fame. He kept to his routine, fixing pipes, tightening bolts, sipping strong coffee in the morning, and returning home to his small, peaceful apartment at night. But peace doesn't last long for those who hear what others don't. One rainy evening, Nam received a strange letter.
No return address.
Just a folded map and a message scribbled on yellowing paper. One last leak to fix.
Come alone.
Dalat. Dalat, a misty mountain town far from Hanoi, known for its old French villas and thick forests. Nam packed his tools and boarded a night train. He didn't know who sent the letter, but something told him this would be the end of the road. The address led to a crumbling villa near the edge of a pine forest. The caretaker, an old mute man, handed Nam a rusted key and pointed toward the basement. The smell of damp earth hit him instantly. Pipes ran wildly across the ceiling, newer than they should be for a house this old. As Nam followed the lines, he noticed something peculiar. The pipes weren't connected to any plumbing system. They were hollow conduits, acting like old-fashioned pneumatic tubes. He found a hatch behind a wall. Opening it revealed a steep staircase descending underground. At the bottom, a vast chamber filled with old computers, filing cabinets, and surveillance equipment. But it was clear no one had been here in years, except for one thing. A chair faced a wall of monitors. And in that chair sat a skeleton, dressed in a faded military uniform. In its hand, a tape recorder. Nam pressed play. A raspy voice echoed. "If you're hearing this, the system is dead. We failed. We watched too much and listened too little. We forgot we were human."
Nam stood in silence.
The room was a time capsule of fear, obsession, and paranoia. He found a single valve still hissing with pressure.
A slow leak.
With a sigh, Nam reached for his wrench. He tightened it, and the hissing stopped. Symbolic or not, the system's final breath was sealed. As he left the villa, the sun rose gently over the pines.
The air was fresh.
Quiet. Back in Hanoi, Nam returned to his small workshop. He hung up his wrench for the day and looked around at the photos pinned to the wall, the Nguyen family smiling, Detective Quang tipping his hat, the Dalat map folded.